Happy Monday, everybody. It's Jim, it's Matt, and welcome back, Matt. You've been missed. Chris filled in for you while you were gone. He popped in on Friday and did a very good job of breaking down stuff for the NFL playoffs. And now tonight, we have what they're calling Miami the Cuban Super Bowl. So it should be a lot of fun. Before we get to the Miami situation, let's kind of do a regroup on what happened over the weekend.
Mhm.
The 49ers and the Seahawks, that thing did. I honestly thought, Sam Darnold would have issues, but the fact of the matter was that that 49er team was really beat up.
Yeah, they are, and they were. A lot's been made about where their facilities planted. I think when you look at how disproportionately the 49ers have been affected by some of these larger injuries, that's definitely something that should be taken into account of, should be factored in,
Mm-hmm.
because it happens so often. Like I think about the amount of Achilles tears. I think they had another one on Saturday. Yeah, they had another one on Saturday with their tight end Tunges. I believe he popped his Achilles too. I think back to Dre
Yeah.
Green running onto the field in the Super Bowl in 2023, and like man, he was making a normal move and it just popped. Um, so these guys aren't always necessarily like popping these things under the stress of an actual football game. Sometimes they're just going and giving out, and I think it's something that the league's probably going to look into. I think it's something that the 49ers are probably going to look into. I know that word is that players are talking to their agents, seeing what they can do about it, what can be done on their side. But yeah, all that to bring it back to, yet the 49ers are really banged up and really didn't have the firepower, the personnel to be able to get the job done in Seattle. Just plain and simple. They did not have the horses to get it done against a really good Seattle defense. And when you add that along with the fact that Seattle made a lot of good plays on special teams as well, obviously the opening kickoff return for a touchdown, then the mountain they were looking to climb was just too big.
Let's talk about the Pats in Houston. I mean, boy, I'll tell you, that was about as sloppy a game as you'd ever want. I mean, would they have 8 turnovers going into the fourth quarter?
Yeah. What I'll say is I think New England's a really good football team, and I think assuming that they win this next weekend, you can't take away from the fact that a team is playing in the Super Bowl. But man, you're going to look at that path, specifically this Texans team and the Denver team that they've got coming if they do make it, and you go like you want to talk about luck of the draw, man. They got a really good draw because CJ Stroud just was not good, has not been good really these last couple of years. You really expect him to kind of build off of a rookie season in which he was fantastic. Back in, what was that, 23, I think was it?
3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, so and that hasn't happened in back-to-back years. He's got 3 playoff wins. I forget who gave the stat. I was scrolling through X and saw a video of it. Somebody went through, said in the Texans' 3 playoff wins that CJ Stroud has been at quarterback, their defense has given up 32 points, and their defense has scored 32 points. He's not had to do the heavy lifting in terms of those playoff wins. He's not been a great playoff quarterback. He's had a great defense, and he's been playing quarterback on teams that have had great defenses. That's been important to note because their defense played well again last night too. But ultimately, when your offense can't score points, it doesn't matter how well your defense is playing.
Well, there's that and the fact that, Mike Grable has really got that defense playing well for New England. And maybe we didn't, maybe a lot of people underestimated it. But I felt bad for Houston only because, you're looking at, they got in there, they won 9 games in a row, they were playing lights out, and and CJ Stroud couldn't throw the ball past the, maybe 10 yards. It was just, he didn't complete a pass. He looked like he was a college quarterback.
Yeah, and
he regressed.
It's interesting. I wonder how much the weather did play a factor because
play some factor. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Drake May had made mention to it. It wasn't. I don't think he tossed it out as a dig or anything, but he said that it's a team that plays in a dome all year. They play in Texas. They play in a dome. So relative to the conditions that were had yesterday,
Mhm.
Houston's not really used to those conditions. You probably got a good taste of it last
Yeah.
week in Pittsburgh when they played their wild card game.
Mhm.
But the snow adds an extra element. I'm sure that played a factor. But yeah, CJ Stroud's really inability to hit anything vertically and living really underneath that 10-yard marker. It just handicaps your offense when you're not able to run the football very well, in which they weren't able to.
Right. We've got, of course, the game last night. That Chicago game was just wild with the Rams. It was just wild. I don't think I've ever seen a play where Caleb Williams on on the 14-yard line throws a touchdown pass from the 47-yard line, um, and was able to actually see him, the guy break open and hit him. I mean, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, it feels really through this final stretch of the year that Caleb Williams he's found ways to win football games
Mhm.
that were like just kind of unheard of. I would say it makes you hopeful as a Chicago Bears fan going forward in the future because the way that he's performed in these games, late in these games
Mhm.
especially, it gives you a lot of hope for when you're on a little bit more of a level playing field talent wise. Their defense was not fantastic in the latter
Mhm.
portion of the year.
Right.
And that's not something that you can just magically fix.
Mhm.
And to be honest with you, their offense it was kind of really was nothing in the first half for most of these games in the back half of the season. But that second half, they figured things out. If they can find a little more consistency than the ability to win games late, which they
Mhm.
showed through a lot of this year, it is something that can translate, I think, going forward in terms of Caleb Williams and who he is as a quarterback. Um, those throws that he's made, though, he's made some otherworldly throws, like
Mhm.
week after week after week,
Mhm.
found ways to win football games. That win over Green Bay was fantastic, and that play he made on last night was fantastic as well. But obviously, you got to go get the job done in overtime.
Yeah, and I honestly think that the receiver quit on the play. I
Yeah.
mean, it looked like he gave up, or he didn't think he was supposed to be there.
Well, it looked like something where Caleb was expecting him to flatten off that route based on
Right.
the depth that the safety had played, and DJ Moore just didn't. That I watched that interception back because I wasn't able to last
Mhm.
night, but I went back and watched it. And it's like you watch that play and you go, yeah, that's on DJ Moore. Like
Mhm.
it's an interception that maybe if DJ Moore flattens it off, maybe that safety's able to break on that ball and still
Right.
break it up. That's fine, but it's a ball that you have to flatten off if you're DJ Moore, and
Mhm.
that to be honest with you, you can want to blame it on Caleb Williams as much as you can, but I find no fault in him on that throw.
It's funny. I listened to the Chicago broadcast and listened to the Los Angeles broadcast. Both of them, not one of them, blamed him.
Yeah.
They all blamed the receiver. They said, "Where was he going? Where did he think he was going?"
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, it was a hell of a catch that the D back made on that. I mean, that was an amazing catch because he had to dive and lay out to get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
And that's the arguments made all the time. What stats are quarterback stats? Are
right.
interceptions quarterback stats? Are wins quarterback stats?
Mhm.
And I mean the fact of the matter is that playing quarterback is the hardest position in football.
Mhm.
Obviously, one of the hardest things to do in all of sports is playing the
Mhm.
quarterback position. And part of the problem is that it's a real all or nothing game when you're playing quarterback. You receive all the blame or you receive all the credit. Like
Mhm.
there's no real in between there. And so it is impressive when people were able to kind of separate that and view the play subjectively and understand that was not Caleb Williams' fault.
Right. Well, our boy Matt Stafford played a heck of a game last night. He got him down there to win, got the field goal, and walked away from in overtime in a very entertaining game. And if that doesn't cement his MVP status, I don't know what does.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like now, granted, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like the MVP is based more off of the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
obviously.
supposedly.
Yeah, yeah. If the voting isn't in, then it can play a factor, obviously, because you're still human. You still see these results. I think the biggest thing now is it sets up another one of these Rams Seahawks matchups, and you had the fantastic game there in the final 3 weeks of the season, but you had a really good game earlier in the year too. So far, the margin of victory between these teams, the Rams won by 2 in the early season matchup when they were in LA, and the Seahawks won by 1 when they were playing in Seattle. These are two of the most evenly matched teams in football. They know each other really well. They split the season series. It's pretty much as good of an NFC Championship game, at least on paper, that you could have set up.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it. I personally, I was sad to see what happened with Bo Nix. I mean, man, this kid all year's balling out, and just as he gets the team to the championship game, he's going to be, sitting in a loge box in the stadium watching it.
Yeah, and listen, a lot was made to do about the Broncos in the regular season, and Bo Nix was pretty criticized throughout the regular season in terms of everybody was like, well, this defense is carrying the way. Well, the defense didn't carry the day for him on Saturday. Like they had to score points. They had to keep up with the Buffalo Bills on offense. And he was able to do that. He played really well, 279, 3 touchdowns, obviously had the 1 pick. But on the ground, they couldn't get anything going. He was their leading rusher on Sunday or on Saturday. There was that aspect as well. He was their offense and gave them offense when they needed it most. So there is that aspect that makes you feel bad. But I think the even worse part of it is it's obviously terrible for Bo Nix, Broncos fans, everybody. But it's bad for football fans in general too, because I think you were robbed of a fantastic championship game. Like when I think Patriots and Broncos, obviously you think Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and those battles that you have. So there's some history that goes along with it as well. But it's tough. But I think for as heartbroken as Sean Payton was in that post-game presser when he came back, he seemed very set that Jared Stidham was their starter. He seemed very confident in Jared Stidham as their starter. It's obviously not Bo Nix. Bo Nix has started 17 football games for him this year. You can't replace that. But, when you spend all year having this guy in your system being the backup, like you have to it is partially on you as a coaching staff to have this guy ready to go and plug and play in a situation such as this. Now, granted, the stakes are that of which you could only really ever dream of being plugged in as a backup.
Yeah, I mean, in some regards, if I'm the Broncos, I'm praying that it snows like hell.
Oh yeah, yeah. You want the snow turns.
You want the worst possible conditions you can get.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the Broncos, even if it doesn't snow, like even if weather is not a factor, they are going to do everything in their power to slow that football game down, limit New England's possessions, and make it a defensive battle to the best of their ability. Because if they're able to do that, that's what will increase their chances. Like their strength lies in that defense. It's what they've relied on all year, and it's going to be what they're going to have to rely on if they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. Now, granted, I say that as good as New England is, I think I'm not sure if I'm going to pick them over either of those NFC teams that are going to make the Super Bowl.
I don't think no. I think that there's too much talent on both those teams that I don't think that New England is matched up for.
Yeah. And I'll also say this, and I think it's being done in jest, but I've seen people online, kind of comparing Jared Stidham to Nick Foles. Nick Foles was the quarterback of the Eagles long before that Super Bowl. Like he was if I remember correctly, I think he finished out the regular season as the Eagles starting quarterback, and then he was the starting quarterback for the entirety of that playoff run for the Philadelphia Eagles as well. There's not a one-to-one comparison on that.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be a very interesting situation with how they play that out. But I think that, like you said, we'll see. Sean Payton, they don't really have to do much if the defense can help them out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see how Drake May can play in Mile High. I mean, it's altitude. It's some situation you haven't played in. It's a loud building, so we'll see.
What I will say this about that matchup, just looking ahead, and something that I noticed yesterday, that is definitely going to play a factor for the Broncos, is the fact that Will Anderson had his way with Will Campbell
Mm-hmm.
yesterday. Like it wasn't close. He beat him with speed off the edge a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times. And Nick Bonito is one of the best speed pass rushers in the league, if not the best.
Mm-hmm. All right. All season long, we've waited for this game. It didn't seem like it was ever going to come. The CFP Championship game, Miami tonight down in at Hard Rock Stadium, and the Hoosiers are playing against the Miami Hurricanes, and they've dubbed it down in Miami the Cuban Super Bowl. So there you go, folks. We got the Cuban Super Bowl being played tonight, 7:30 on ESPN ABC, and on radio you can catch it on Westwood One. So you got that. So what do we see here tonight? We got Fernando Mendoza and Fernando Mendoza and Mario Cristobal have a very interesting situation here. You've got the first ever Heisman Trophy winning Cuban American quarterback and the first ever head coach who is Cuban American who is in a national championship game. And you got Mendoza's father played on the same team in high school, Columbia High School. It's a Catholic school down in Miami. Back in the day. So these it's not only that they not they know not do they not know each other by reputation, they know each other.
Yeah. Mendoza also, when he went into the portal last year, he went on a visit to Miami. He gave them a look as a potential option. If my understanding of the situation is correct, I don't think Miami was all that interested in having Fernando Mendoza come and be their starting quarterback this year. Mendoza, of Cuban roots, I think his grandparents defected from Cuba, so something like that. That's where he gets his Cuban roots from. But this is going to be an interesting game. One part that I just genuinely have no idea on is, and I'm very interested to see, is the crowd split, because this is a Miami home game. Like, this is the stadium they play in. They're using their home locker room. It's where they're familiar with. It's what they're familiar with. But to the same credit, as you go back and you look at that Peach Bowl, man, there weren't very many Oregon fans in that building. I was headed out west on Sunday afterwards, and I think I had half of the Oregon fan base on my plane, and that's saying a lot because I was flying Southwest. It wasn't the biggest plane in the world, so there was not a lot of people there. Indiana traveled well. I'm curious to see how they'll travel down to Miami for this game, and what is an opportunity for Indiana fans I don't think they ever had in their wildest dreams when it came to football. That their team would reach this point that they're at. This was at one point the losingest program in college football history. And now Kurt Cignetti's in year 2 of a rebuild, and they've turned it all the way around to this. Listen, 8.5 points is a lot. That's what the spread is on this game. I don't know if they're that good. I think people might have a jaded view of what Indiana is as a football team after that, honestly, just an ass beating in Atlanta they gave out.
Yeah, and to the other thing, and we've talked about this, about how physical Miami is. Miami's line, both offense, defense, outweigh each. This is an average now. Outweigh the lines by approximately 30 to 40 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big hunk in offensive line and a big hunk in defensive line.
Yeah. So That is true, and I'm going to use I'm going to use the transitive property. It's not going to be the crux of any argument that I make on this game, but it is interesting. I think about that game that Miami played against Ohio State, and I think about the game that Indiana played against Ohio State. And those are two different games.
Hmm.
Miami felt like they were in control against Ohio State, and Indiana's game, they were in control. They obviously won the game by 3 points. I didn't feel like they had the same sense of control over that Ohio State team that Miami did in that playoff game, which I think is interesting. I think it's worth noting. I also can acknowledge that teams over really what's been about a month and a half now can obviously grow and change. And I think both teams have grown and they have changed. I think Indiana's a lot better now than they were. I think they're a lot more confident. I think that plays a big factor into how good they're
Sure.
playing right now as well. But I think both teams are different than they were even when we go back to that quarterfinal round in the playoff. I think they've grown from there with their semifinal wins as well. I think these are two different teams, and you're going to get a different matchup. I do think 8.5 points is a lot, though, when it comes to how much Indiana is favored over Miami, because this is still a really good Miami football team. They have common opponents. You've seen them on the field.
Hmm.
Just because Miami didn't go out there and dominate Ole Miss, maybe in the fashion that people would have maybe thought they were going to, or it felt like they were able to do, given the way they played that first half, um, doesn't mean that they're going to be out of this one, because I think there was a path for Miami to look the exact same way against Ole Miss that Indiana did against Oregon. They just had a couple bounces of ball go the other way.
Yeah, and I think that with regards to Miami, um, I think that they've gotten physical and they've gotten better. Uh, they have a chip on their shoulder. They want to prove that they're good. Uh, and so I think that I don't know the home crowd. You brought up the Indiana will that building will have strong Indiana ties. I mean,
Yeah.
there's absolutely no question about it. There's absolutely no way he's not gonna that they're not gonna be there. So yeah, will there be Miami fans? Absolutely. Will there be enough Miami fans to make a difference? I don't think I think it's gonna be maybe 50-50, maybe 60-40 Miami.
Mhm.
The tickets for Miami. I mean, the Miami fans are going nuts. They're spending some ridiculous money for these tickets. So, it's kind of a bizarre situation, that's for sure.
Mhm. Well, what I'll also throw this out there is after Indiana beat Oregon in the manner that they did,
Hmm.
um, there was allegations of well, this turnaround, the way it's happened, stuff like that.
Hmm.
People started asking questions, and to be honest with you, I think they've got every right to ask questions about that,
Hmm.
because I mean, dear God, it is a miraculous turnaround, but for as good as Indiana does scouting, because if you do as good a job of scouting as Indiana has up until this point, it looks like cheating. Like they have four on the year. They have four first drive interceptions. That's a result of really good scouting and understanding. Like these quarterbacks have tendencies. They have stuff that they're comfortable in.
Hmm.
You can see that with Sark in Texas and the stuff that they ran for Arch Manning to
Hmm.
start the year a lot at Texas. Um, so they have stuff, and if you're good enough on that side of the football, and you're good enough in your film room and your game study, then you're going to pick up on these tendencies. You're going to sit on stuff. You're going to know what this quarterback likes to do to get into a rhythm and feel comfortable in a football game. So they've done that 4 times. They've scouted better than anybody else in the country. But I'll tell you what matters more than scouting does, and I'll go back to 2021 on this, because
Hmm.
Michigan had started that 2021 season was the start of Michigan doing their supposed sign stealing and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Michigan went down to the Orange Bowl and got physically manhandled by Georgia in that.
Hmm.
It it doesn't matter how well you scout. If you can't stop my big boys from pushing you 3, 4, 5 yards down the football field and
Hmm.
resetting that line of scrimmage, it doesn't matter how well you've scouted. It doesn't matter how well you do your fits and stuff like that. If you are not physically up to the task
Hmm.
of lining up against these guys, and you highlighted the size disparity on
Hmm.
these lines. Like, if Miami is able to push you around, I don't think it's going to matter how well you have them scouted. If Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain are able to physically control that line of scrimmage and you're able to sit on a lot of these RPOs that Indiana loves to run, I don't think it's going to matter, what your scouting has done for you up until this point. These DBs are bigger and as physical as those Ohio State DBs. These are not those Oregon DBs, with all due respect to those Oregon DBs.
Mhm.
But they lack a little bit of size sometimes on the outside. Jaden Kennedy's really good, but he's 5'10". These guys are not 5'10". These guys are 6'1". They're 6'2". They're big. They play physical as well. And Miami, physicality-wise, is as good as Ohio State, obviously better given some results. So just thinking that Indiana is going to walk in here and that they're comparing themselves to this 2019 LSU team, or people have compared themselves to this 2019 LSU team, we've gotten way out ahead of it just because we saw a blowout in the Peach Bowl. I get it. You can see the parallels. I understand where you're coming from when it comes to that. This is not 2019 LSU. You cannot build 2019 LSU in 2025 and 2026 in college football. It's not possible. It has not happened. They do a really good job, but Miami has the physicality to win this football game.
Yeah, I think that the key factor there is, I don't think that Indiana, and this is not, I think Indiana is a hell of a football team, and I give Kurt tremendous props for what he's done. I don't think they're going to face a more physical I don't think they have faced a more physical and more quick team than they're facing in Miami. Miami's got cornerbacks and safeties, and this was a line from, I forget, one of the ACC teams that played them and lost, said that their secondary hit harder than his linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
And they are violent. They are absolutely violent.
They are. And what I'll say about Miami is they're Carson Beck throwing like one interception less away from beating Louisville. They're like a key penalty away from beating SMU. This is not a team. Yes, they have 2 losses on their schedule, but the talent has remained the same. When they lost, they beat themselves. I was really impressed, and I think it tells a lot about this Miami football team with what they did in that Fiesta Bowl, because Carson Beck turned the football over. That happened. They had the turnover. They weren't perfect in terms of their penalties. They had a bunch of them. They weren't fantastic on special teams, but they still found a way to win that football game. And to be honest with you, when I was watching it, it felt like they were going to win the football game. Like, I wasn't worried about Miami going down and scoring. That was kind of my expectation when I watched that football game. They've won close games late. Indiana's done the same thing, but they've been a little bit more battle-tested of late.
Mm-hmm.
I still think, in the grand scheme of things, that I might wind up on the Indiana side of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I go back to the public perception and really what that line's set at. And I don't see 8.5 out of this Indiana football team over Miami.
I took a quick look back when we were talking about Mendoza and Miami. It was a 2-star coming out of high school. Miami, they had conversations with him, and he committed to Yale. Then he decommitted from Yale, committed to Cal, played a year with Cal, and here's the
beat Miami, or no, lost to Miami.
Lost to Miami, yeah. This is Cristobal talking. This is his quote from him. He goes, "We really looked at him. We really liked him." What he said, at the end of the day, we didn't really know what. We knew what Carson Beck was. We didn't know what he was.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Coaches make mistakes all the time." And he said, "I like Carson. He's been good with us." He said, "It would have been nice to have Mendoza too." But he said, that one. So Mario himself is calling himself on this one. Said, we played them, we saw them, we didn't know, we just know what we're getting. We knew what we were getting with Carson Beck.
Yeah.
So,
which I think what I will say is I think that's an interesting statement. Obviously, not like pointed or any ill words toward Carson Beck.
Oh, no, 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 no.
I also think it's interesting that they said they knew what they were getting with Carson Beck when they signed him. When they pulled him out, he was in draft consideration. Like he had entered his name into the NFL draft. When they got him to pull his name out of the NFL draft, he couldn't throw a football. So saying they knew what they were getting with Carson Beck, I thought was interesting. A bit disingenuous, if you ask me. But I think it is you. I think when you have that guy on campus and he's won the Heisman and he's 15-0 at Indiana University, and it has a lot to do with the school's name and where they're doing it at, because it's never been done here before. Then you have to give that credit. You really have to have hand-up accountability because of how good he has been.
Well, there's gonna be Miami fans that are gonna, or let me put it this way: they're gonna be Miami. They're gonna be fans from Miami who are gonna be cheering for him.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's not like he won't have. He'll have his Miami cheering section just as much as he's going to have his Indiana cheering section.
Yeah. There's obviously not everybody, but there is a certain portion of people in Miami that will be winners regardless this evening.
Yeah, and Miami is very much especially the Cuban community in Miami. It's a very tight community, and they're proud of both those guys, as well they should be.
Yeah.
And you're right; they win either way, but I do think that Mendoza is going to get a lot of love when it comes from not necessarily the Miami U fans. Okay, the guys from the U are not going to be overwhelmed, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a good one tonight. I personally I got to go with Indiana. I'd love to go with Miami, but Indiana's just played so well this year. Yeah. It's going to be close. They're not going to boat run over them like they did Alabama or anybody else. This is going to be a much closer game, but I don't know.
I do think it's also important to remind people or give people this reminder. Like now, when people look back at that 2019 LSU team, they're like, man, they were unbeatable. Like this was the best team in football. They were unbeatable. They were untouchable. While all that feels true and you kind of remember with rose-colored glasses, you also need to remember that they were losing by 10 points in the first half of that national championship to Clemson. Like that's something that's very real. It's something that happened. That was a 4-quarter football game that they pulled away from late. So even that LSU football team, as great as they were and as great as they are, even through revisionist history, there's still there was blemishes on that team. They were still a beatable football team for as many stars and as much talent as they had on that offensive side of the football. So, if Indiana comes out and they aren't on their A+ football game and Miami is, it doesn't matter how much better Indiana is, hypothetically is, all of that, then they can still be beat on any given night.
Well, I mean, we're going to find out tonight, that's for sure. All right. Now, you did some outstanding work. We're going to downshift to golf for a few minutes here. You did some outstanding work in Honolulu, where you were at in Hawaii. Talk a little bit about this is the first golf tournament of the season. What did you see out there? What were some of the observations?
I was really surprised at how flat the course was. In Georgia, there's even if it's a flat-ish course, there's still plenty of hills. Like there were no hills involved at this course, but man, did the wind play a factor. And you can see that through the ball flights. Really, the way that some players work through their shots, taking more club, taking less club. The winds were legit, especially on the ocean side of the course, which is the backside. Those par threes on 11 and 17, they both back right up to the ocean. They play a big factor. Only 2 par fives on this course. There's a par 70 course, so it's a shorter course in terms of distance and relative size. And To be honest with you, it was lovely. Like it was as beautiful weather as you could have asked for a golf tournament. It was sunny and 75 every day. Wednesday you had some rain come in the morning, which kind of softened things up. But the course was, I don't know if it was the course condition, I don't know if it was the winds or what it was. But this year, relative to other years at the Sony Open, was actually relatively low scoring in terms of the winning score.
Mm-hmm.
Typically around that 20 under number. Chris Goddard finished the tournament. He won by 2 strokes at 16 under, which I thought was really impressive. Interesting note: this was the first time winner they've had at the Sony Open since 2013 when Russell Henley won it.
Wow. Any dark horses? Any people that we should be looking for as the tour heads back to the mainland in the not too distant future?
So Goddard's an interesting story. I know he's the winner, and people talk about it, but he played really well in the back half of the PGA Tour season last year. He won the Scottish Open. He played really well at the Open. He played really well ending the year. He's made a move to Florida now. When he was talking about making the move, and he said that he made it because he loved living. Oh God, where was he from? It was Oklahoma. He said he loved living in Oklahoma and all that. He said, but it's really hard to get ready for golf tournaments when it's 40 degrees in Oklahoma, and you're going to play in Hawaii, or you're going to play in California this week, or you're going to play in Florida, that first Florida leg as well. And so he ultimately, I think, chose to make the move to Florida. I think it was Jupiter. That's where everybody lives and plays.
Yeah.
Apparently now. It paid dividends for him in this first tournament. So it's something that he got hot at the end. It appears to have carried over. I'll be really curious to see how his season goes moving forward, because this is a strong start, and it's something that is carried over from last season.
So it'll be fun to watch and see plot his move along the tour this year. Then
another one that I was intrigued by, or I say intrigued by, to be honest with you, I was a little disappointed in Colin Morikawa and his. Now, granted, typically where he's best at is his approach to green. Last year was a season best in terms of driving accuracy for Colin. His iron play has always been among the best in the business when it comes to it. And he didn't make the cut this week in a course that historically you're able to look at the tee to green short game. And when you're at the top of the tournament in that, then you're at the top of the leaderboard and you're probably winning tournaments at that. He wasn't able to capitalize. He had a really bad first day, and he bounced back a lot better the second day. Ultimately wasn't able to make the cut. And I find it concerning based on the relative difficulty of the course. It's not the most difficult course. It's not going to be one of the more difficult courses they play all year on the tour. But I was a little bit disappointed, and because after what was, I think he himself would describe as a disappointing season last year, I really thought this was a good opportunity for him to get off to a strong start to his season. He had finished 21st and 7th in his prior 2 appearances at the Sony Open. And honestly, just a little bit uninspiring, all things considered, from Morikawa, because I thought he had a really good opportunity to kind of shake off the rust and put that season that he wasn't pleased with behind him.
Mm-hmm. Any other observations out there? Beautiful course.
Yeah, Vijay Singh. It was highly debated. He took his money exemption, money list exemption, in order to be able to play this year on the PGA Tour. People criticized it. I think there was, and I think it's a legitimate point to be made about, taking a spot away in different fields that could be for these younger players trying to break through on the PGA Tour. Vijay Singh made the cut, and he finished pretty well. I can't remember what he finished. I think he finished maybe, it was a couple under. But regardless, the fact that he made the cut and the fact that he played that well is, I think it's very interesting. I think it's a noteworthy story about a guy who's, standing the test of time. Like, with all due respect to him, Tiger Woods is 50 years old. He's 12 years younger than Vijay Singh is. And, throughout the past really decade of Tiger Woods' life, it's been on and off as to whether or not he can swing a golf club.
Yeah.
Vijay Singh's been playing on the Champions Tour. He's been playing consistently, and he made his return to the regular tour, and he came out there and he backed it up.
That's all you can ask, right?
Yeah, I think the other thing that I'll add on top of that is I do think that there is going to be an aspect of this that if Vijay Singh is going to play, they're going to have to be courses much like Wailea out there in Hawaii because of how flat the course was. I think if it's something that's got a lot more undulation, a lot more hills, and it's a more difficult challenge, then it's going to be able to replicate his results. I do have it here. He was 5 under on the week, tied for 40th. So there is that, but I don't know how much it's going to be replicable across the different venues of the PGA Tour season. But I'm very curious to watch it unfold.
The other thing too, and we'll close with this, is it's you don't really know what's going to happen, after the first tour. And remember that on the Seniors Tour, I call it the Seniors Tour, the Champions Tour, whatever, you're allowed to use a cart.
Mm-hmm.
So that may help him. And there's only 3 days of golf, so that may help him as well. To that. So we'll keep an eye on it. Well, welcome back, my friend. Well, go ahead.
I was gonna give this as a closing note because it's something that was talked about a little bit, not necessarily a ton. The PGA Tour has put up a new schedule proposal for 2027, and a part of the reshaping of the PGA Tour schedule would eliminate these events in Hawaii. I listen, if you want to cut one of them, I could understand it because financially it doesn't make decisions. But what I will tell you in being out there and something that I think is at least in my mind important is like I watched it, and when I'm out there in Hawaii, I was following the round with one day I was following Morikawa with Jordan Spieth and Hideki Matsuyama, and I paid attention to the group, and it was the biggest group that I saw walking around all week with a player, and he was continuously the most followed golfer throughout the week. Every time I saw his group, it was the numbers that he had following him were important. This tournament, it appears it gets a stronger, I think, Asian or Pacific Islander turnout than any other tournament in the country, and it's important because it's Hawaii is like 4 hours off the coast of California. It's not close to California, but it's relatively closer to some of those more Eastern Asian countries where if you're these people from these countries and you want to go see a tournament, where am I going to go see a tournament? I'll probably go see it in Hawaii. You're probably not getting great numbers, but I think that the golf in Hawaii specifically is too good to just do away with entirely. And I think it honestly matters a decent amount to the people of Hawaii and the people out there at Wailea. Really all the islands, because they play the other one, the Century in Maui. I think these tournaments are important for them and these islands. And, they're thinking of doing away with them for financial reasons. And, do you do away with history in pursuit of a higher dollar amount? People historically have, people probably historically will continue to, but I don't like the idea of getting rid of these tournaments.
It's funny. It says here, I did a quick look up at it, and Japan has a tremendous amount of tourists that come consistently from Japan to Hawaii. 5 different airlines come from Tokyo to Honolulu, and often the flight ticket costs range from $250 to $450 for a round trip ticket.
Yeah.
That bears out what you're saying is that if you want to see PGA golf, and and you've got in the Asian. There's a huge Asian contingent.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't you not? I mean, it's not the, the PGA prints money. I don't understand why that would be something that they wouldn't want to do.
Yeah, yeah. The logistics was a big factor in what they were talking about, and how
Mhm.
hard it can be to set that tournament up. But again, I like
Mhm.
it's a give and take with it, and I feel like you are probably going to be taking more than you're gaining, because
Mhm.
it feels like y- you may not do it instantaneously, but this
Mhm.
isn't the PGA Tour isn't an international tour. Like, this isn't something that goes on the road. Like, to for as much as their business model hasn't really worked, to Live Golf's credit, like, they go places. They're in Dubai, they're in Asia.
Mhm.
They go to these different places. They play in Australia. They do a little bit more of the national. I know there's the DP World Tour as well, and the PGA Tour's argument would be like, well, if they want to have a national outreach, then they need to go play there, um, because that's another tour that the PGA will allow players to play on.
Mhm.
Um, and and again, I've criticized the PGA, and I'll continue to do it. Is they have not done the best job at marketing their athletes and marketing their
Mhm.
personalities, and getting to know them and who they are,
Mhm.
which I feel like is an essential part of fandom. If you're watching golf, like, you need to know who these guys are. Otherwise, you're just watching a guy whack a ball around. I can go sit down at the country club and watch somebody else do that
Right.
if I just want to watch people play.
Mhm.
But you're there to see these guys and these people and these personalities that you
Mhm.
want to get to know, or you do know. Um, and at that point, you're alienating a little bit more of that Eastern Asian audience,
Mhm. Right.
taking away an opportunity really for them to go and see these guys in person.
Right. Which you don't want to do. It's marketing 101. Do not do that. All right. It's We're coming to the end of the show. Any final thoughts for tonight?
Tonight, I am curious to see about these lines of scrimmage. Oregon's got a pretty good line of scrimmage. They had a pretty good defensive line. It
Mhm.
gets alienated if Fernando Mendoza is making the good decisions on time. The way that offense runs
Mhm.
is you're going to have to get a significant push from the interior of that defensive line. Um, I know that Ahmad Moten for Miami went out in that Fiesta Bowl. I'm curious
Mhm.
to see what his health is, his status is like, because I think he's going to be very interesting in
Mhm.
terms of what he can do in the middle of that field. But, are they able to slow down the run? Are they able to take bodies out of the box and win with limited numbers in the box? Because
Mhm.
that's what the RPO does. It's designed to stretch you out. It's designed where
Sure.
you have to win with limited numbers in that box. I think Miami has the physicality, and they'll be able to. I just wonder if they're going to be able to do it over a full 60 minutes. Indiana has scouted so well, and they've done such a good job in their execution. They're scouting weekly. Like, these aren't the guys
Mhm.
that are just more talented than you necessarily,
Mhm.
but damn it, they're going to out execute you week in and week out. And for that, this game's at a 7.5 point spread for a reason. There's a
Mhm.
reason that people believe in Indiana so much. I'm going to take Indiana to win. I think Miami's probably going to end up covering the spread, though.
I think Miami has a puncher's chance, but I still have to think I have to go with Indiana.
Yeah.
Um, but the U never left, but the U of Mario Cristobal is he put his stamp on this one. So
Mm-hmm.
good for him. And I just hope it's an entertaining game.
You and me both.
There you go. Had enough of these blowouts. We
Mm-hmm.
don't want to see that. Close game, please. All
Yeah.
right. Until tomorrow, everybody. Have a nice day. So tell me about